So, an important part of the transfer process is having those sometimes hard conversations about how you're going to pay for college. I know it's definitely not something that a lot of people like to think about, but it is a critical part that you do have to take into consideration and not just think, well, by the time I get there, something's going to work itself out, because that is definitely not necessarily the case. So I hope that this presentation helps you to maybe start those conversations, to start thinking about, the ways in which you can go about to finance your education. So what is the actual cost of attending college? It's not just, going to school with the tuition, but it's looking at, what is the actual cost with, your tuition, your books, your housing, all of that. And then what aid are you getting? And so then what is the net price? Okay. And so you have the sticker price of attending, and then you subtract your gift aid, and then you have your net price. And so it's not necessarily always the sticker price that you're looking at, and that's something that you need to take into consideration. So remembering that going to school is not just tuition. You have your direct costs, which are your tuition, your fees, your housing, your food. And then you have indirect costs that you have to think about. And I really like this graphic here just because it's showing, different things that happen. Your bike gets stolen, you want to go on spring break, your laptop goes dead, so just the different things that can happen while you're in school, and how you have to take into consideration, what those costs are going to be, that it's not just paying for tuition. And so you need to keep that in mind, that you're going to have to pay for other things besides, just going to school. If you are moving, you have to remember that you have to take those costs into consideration. So what are the housing, fees going to be if you move down to LA? Being here in Sonoma County, we're used to a higher level of housing costs. And so if you go to a place like Chico or Riverside or UC Merced, it's going to be a little less expensive. And so you might be able to, take that into consideration as well. So the various types of aid that we're going to talk about today are the free money, the money that you do not have to pay back. And then we'll also discuss loans. So we're going to start with the free money. So we're going to talk about scholarships. So this is money that is awarded to you that you do not have to pay back. So the first piece of the graph here is money given away through SRJC through our scholarships. So keep in mind that this piece of things, you're only competing with other SRJC students. And so your level of competition is a lot smaller than if you were to do, a statewide scholarship or a nationwide scholarship. So at SRJC, we have the foundation scholarships. That's our biggest scholarships that we give away. And a lot of students don't know about them. And so it's really important that you take time to review the SRJC scholarship page to see what it is that we have to offer. So this is, besides the Doyle, you can look at the scholarships here. So you can go to scholarship programs, and here's the SRJC Foundation scholarships. They come out in January and are due by March 1st. And there's a second application that comes out August 1st that's due by October 1st. So if you are a continuing SRJC student, you need to have completed at least 12 units with a 2.0 GPA, but we recommend a 2.5, and be enrolled in at least 6 units. If you will be transferring, then the transfer scholarships, you have to have at least 24 units at SRJC. You'll have 60 units completed by the end of the spring 2020. This is what they're stating here is if you were to do the August to October. So it's a little bit different. And then you have to be in at least 6 units at SRJC with a 3.0. So the continuing student, I believe there's 470 or 75 applications or scholarship opportunities. and and the transfer student scholarships, there's 200 and something. So you're filling out one application for, all of these opportunities. So you definitely want to take advantage of the foundation scholarships. The other thing that the SRJC Scholarship Office has is the business and community scholarships. There isn't a lot on here right now because it's not scholarship season. So the only thing here is Doyle. But in January, you will see a list of all different types of scholarships. And so what I recommend is you choose a day to do your scholarship search. Let's say it's Tuesdays. And then you just come on each week and click on this new scholarships so that you don't have to try to weed through every single one, okay? And so there's some great information here on the financial aid scholarship page. So come back on here and play around. It's just scholarships.santarosa.edu. On the SRJC Transfer Center website, under resources, and I know some of you have already found this, there's the financial aid / scholarships for transfer. So we have some great information on here. One of the things that we do have is a link to every single CSU and UC for their scholarship offices. So for example, for a student who is applying for fall 2020 to Sonoma State, they can actually apply for the SSU scholarship program. It's called the University Scholarship Program. That application is due by February 1st. So they don't even know if they're going to be attending Sonoma State yet, or even if they've been admitted, but they can put in the scholarship. So that's something to keep in mind. You could go back to your high school and see what kind of scholarship opportunities they have for students who have graduated from that school. Your place of employment or your parents' employer may offer scholarship. What extracurricular activities are you in? Are you on the ice hockey team? Do you knit? I don't know. Think about the things that you do. Sometimes you're too close to it. So asking other people, what do I do? What could I apply for a scholarship for? And then start doing that research. A religious affiliation, your cultural or ethnic background, what's your major, products that you use. I mean, there's all kinds of scholarships out there. So to really just kind of do that search. When I was in school, I got a scholarship for the Italian Catholic Federation. I did not grow up Catholic, but my grandmother was Catholic and she was in the Federation. So, just even thinking about, well, what possibly could I get a scholarship for? Seeing what's out there for you. The other thing I'll say about scholarships is you really want to find 2 or 3 search engines that you like and stick with those, because the scholarship search can be, a deep hole that you can kind of keep going and going through. And so find the ones that you like and use those to do those searches on. All right, next we have grants. So this is also free money that does not have to be paid back. So there's the Pell Grant. And if you're already receiving financial aid at SRJC, you get money, not just your fees waived, you're receiving the Pell Grant most likely. So the Pell Grant amount does not change when you go on to university. And so that's something to keep in mind, that this is what you're going to get. You can get the Pell for 6 full-time equivalent years. So if you've been at SRJC and you've been a full-time student, if you've been here for 3 years, you want to maybe keep 3 years for when you transfer, okay? So it's something to think about. There's also the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, and this is really for students who have, really a zero family contribution, so they might receive that grant. There are Cal Grants, the Entitlement Grant and the Competitive Grant. The Cal Grant C is more for students who are just going to a community college. And then there are grants by the university. So both the UC and the CSU offer grants. The UC is called the Blue and Gold, and the CSU is called the State University Grant. So these are, for example, at the UC, if your family makes less than $80,000 a year, you apply for financial aid, and the FAFSA kicks in, or the California Dream Act kicks in, and then they will cover the rest of the cost of tuition. So not of your housing, but of tuition. And then there's the middle class scholarship. I think that's for families who make less than $120,000 a year. So you want to, research all of these options for yourself. Work study is also money that does not have to be paid back. And so you want to take this into consideration. And if you have work study as part of your federal money or your financial aid package, you want to take advantage of that. So it's a partnership between the federal government and colleges. Students can work on campus for a maximum of 20 hours per week. And the money is not counted toward your taxable income for when you apply for financial aid the next year. By working on campus, you can have that flexible work schedule that, works around your school schedule. And you're also building a support network by, knowing people on campus. So loans, this is what has to be paid back. So there are Stafford loans, and there are subsidized and unsubsidized. So a subsidized loan is offered to students with the most financial need, and the government pays the interest while the student is in school, and they will continue to do that for 6 months after the student leaves or graduates. An unsubsidized Stafford loan is there's no financial need required. You are paying the interest, and if you choose not to pay the interest while you're in school, then it gets tacked on to the principal after you graduate. So it's something to think about. What is that interest payment, and should you be making it while you're in school? There's Dream Loans for AB 540 students. So these are offered to students who've completed a California Dream application, and it matches the subsidized Stafford loan. You do not pay interest while you're enrolled in at least 6 or more units, and there's a 6-month grace period after you graduate. The PLUS loan is for parents. So if your parent is willing to take out a loan on your behalf, then they want to look at these PLUS loans to see if that makes the most sense for them. This is an example of what an award letter looks like. So this was a student who was admitted to UC Berkeley, and his estimated cost of attendance was going to be $36,839. He was given an award of $28,039. So that's money he did not have to pay back. So his net cost was $8,800. And so then they told him, well, we'll give you some of that $8,800 in work study, or you can take out loans. Okay. So this student decided to do work study. And so I want to say like $4,000. And then if, he wanted, he could take out loans to pay for the rest. Okay, so that just gives you an example of an award letter. I know a couple of you said you were, not really interested in UCs because you felt they were too expensive. My opinion is apply if you're really interested in that campus and see what kind of aid you receive, and then make a decision from there. So if you're an AB 540 student, there's non-resident tuition exemption, and you can do the Cal Grant as well as the UC and CSU grant. So you're not going to do federal money, but you can get state aid as well as the grants through the university. And then for scholarships, you can do the middle class scholarship because, again, that's a state-run program, not federal. And then, of course, you can apply for SRJC and university scholarships or private scholarships, but you may have to do a little bit more research to see what's available for undocumented students. And then there are Dream Loans at some participating state schools. So that might be something you want to look at as well. So both the FAFSA and the California Dream Act application, those applications open on October 1st. You can use tax information from the prior year, and the priority deadline is March 2nd. You want to have information available or documents available as you sit down to do the application, and they tell you up front what it is you should have. So get that information before you sit down. You'll, save yourself some frustration. So a couple things to consider. What's the financial aid package being offered? Like I just said, And you usually get the admissions decision, not usually, from a CSU or a UC, you would definitely have an admission acceptance in April, and then you need to make that decision by May 1st in most cases. For the UC, it's June 1st. So I'm sorry, I'm not being very clear. For CSU, it's May 1st, and for UC, it's June 1st. You'll receive a provisional award shortly after your admission office. Can you tell I have a cold? Your admission offer. And so you want to take that into consideration prior to making your decision. Thinking about how long you're going to be at the university and how many years of aid you're going to need. So the average time to degree for a CSU is 3 years after transfer, and for a UC, it's 2.3. So even though a UC might be more expensive, it may save you money in the long run if you're not there as long. There are some loan repayment programs in such fields as medicine, education, working for the government and nonprofit areas. And then just thinking about some other things, you are paid differently from SRJC. So sometimes it's on a debit card instead of receiving a check in the mail, things like that. Your satisfactory academic progress follows you. So you want to make sure that you are in good academic progress at SRJC. And you really want to understand your Pell and institutional aid as you move on. So just some next steps to consider. Who do you need to talk to? Go into the financial aid office or call the financial aid office at the school you're interested in. What is it that you want to know for your specific situation? What time commitment are you willing to put in each week to research scholarships? So again, instead of watching Netflix for, hours on end, do some scholarship searches. When are you going to apply for FAFSA, the California Dream Act? So get it down, hold yourself accountable, do it over winter break so that it's done. And then just thinking about how you could start saving money. What is it that you could do so that you could put some money away and, just start that little nest egg for yourself. Every little amount makes a difference. So start these conversations, find out, if you're a traditional age student and you are receiving some help from your folks, what are they able to help with? Maybe it's only being able to pay for your car insurance, but that is something, okay? Having those conversations, I know in some families is difficult, but you want to find out what assistance are they going to be able to provide, if any, and if they cannot provide anything, then you want to know that up front so that you can start putting those, steps into place for yourself to figure out how am I going to do this. All right, so I hope this was helpful in just sparking that curiosity for yourself and learning more about how the process works in paying for the education.